When most people hear the name Civilization, they think of one of the greatest strategy game franchises that ever existed. Civilization has been around for over 30 years. Millions of people have played it, and it's one of those franchises that even non-strategy gamers have usually heard of. So when I found out that 2K Games was bringing Civilization to the mobile strategy genre, I was genuinely excited. Now, I wasn't really following the development from day one. I didn't really even know that it was coming until I was offered a beta to the game. So once I received the beta, I decided to give it a try. And I was super excited about it. And at that point in the game, there wasn't any spending at all. It was literally a beta. And honestly, I really liked what I saw. It wasn't just another clone of every other mobile strategy game that's out there. It had some actual Civilization DNA mixed into it. It wasn't a perfect recreation of the PC game by any means, but it felt different enough to catch my attention from what was already out there on the market as far as mobile strategy games. I thought it had real potential, which is why the news that Civilization Allies and Eras is shutting down this month before ever reaching a full global launch is so interesting to me. Obviously, a lot of money has been spent on the game, on the development of the game. And because this wasn't just some other random mobile game that no one had actually heard of, this was Civilization. It's a massive gaming franchise. And it's backed by a major publisher, not just some random publisher out there. And somehow it still couldn't make it across the finish line. So what happened? Let's talk about it. At its core, the idea made a lot of sense. Take one of the most recognizable strategy brands in gaming and adapt it into a mobile alliance-based strategy game with all of the elements of mobile strategy, which kind of revolves around your community and communication and the social aspects of the game. It had all of that. Players could build cities, they could recruit historical leaders, they could advance through different eras. It was like on a global map, so a lot of the cities that you would kind of advance to take were modeled in the areas kind of on the world map. So it was very, very interesting. You could join alliances and you could compete against other players. If you played mobile strategy games before, a lot of the systems would feel familiar, but the movement and the way that you do things or the way that you did things was quite different from the other games that are out there. But and that Civilization theme also kind of gave it a different flavor. Instead of feeling like a generic fantasy kingdom in another war game, it actually felt connected to that same Civilization universe. Again, if you play like Civ 6 on mobile, this is not the same game. This is a very kind of massive group social game with all of the same kind of gacha elements and spending and microtransactional type stuff all over the place, right? So either you love it or you hate it. But that's what initially attracted a lot of people to it. And the problem really wasn't the concept at all. The concept was really solid. One of the things that people may not realize is that Civilization Allies and Eras spent a very long time in its soft launch. So anyone who is unfamiliar with the term, a soft launch is basically a testing phase, but it's kind of opened up to a large group of people. The game was available in certain regions while the developers kind of gathered data, collected feedback. They make changes, they made a lot of changes to the game, a lot of updates to the game to determine whether the game was ready for a worldwide release, and they could kind of base their expected cost and their expected gains by the smaller market. They didn't have to spend a ton of money on servers that they would have to do in a worldwide release when they could just narrow it down to a certain smaller segment. So sometimes a game spends a few months in a soft launch. Sometimes it spends a lot longer. Civilization Allies and Eras seem to stay there for quite a while. And once this game came out, once I was in beta and then it was going to go to its soft launch, I thought, the natural progression is it would go to global within 2 or 3 months. It was pretty polished. There were very few bugs. I mean, we were finding some bugs, but they were very cosmetic, very kind of minimal, honestly. And you see more in games that are in production and live right now than you would do in this one. So while none of us outside the company really know what the internal numbers look like, that's usually where the difficult decisions start getting made. Are players sticking around? Are they enjoying the game? Are they coming back every day? Can the game attract enough players and the right players, right, that would make the company money? Can it keep them? Can it generate enough revenue to support years of future development? These are the questions that every live service game eventually has to answer. And unfortunately, not all of them survive that process. This isn't a one-off. There's other games where this has happened. Either it never made it out to live worldwide release, or it was live and they had to take it down because they just weren't generating the revenue to justify having all of their development going, having all of the other fees that they have to pay. We think, oh, you just make a game and you collect all of this money. Well, there's a lot of stuff that you have to pay for. You have to pay for storage. You have to pay fees to the stores, like to Google and to Apple. And there's a lot that goes in. There's taxes. There's all kinds of stuff you have to do. But what's interesting is I don't think most people who played Civilization Allies and Eras would describe it as a terrible game. It was actually in a beta even before it was even named Civilization Allies and Eras. And it was there for a while as well. I mean, this was a long time for them to kind of test the market to see if they were going to be able to get something out of this. As far as games goes, I've played a lot of games that are much worse that are actually out there, and they're probably generating money right now. The presentation was good. The Civilization branding was appealing. The historical figures and all of that was interesting, and I thought it would do pretty well in the market. There was excitement from strategy gamers who wanted to see where this game would go. And that's what makes this kind of a story, kind of a cautionary tale for the people that are out there. You always feel like you own your account, but that doesn't really happen. Right? You don't really own that account that you play and that you spend money on. That's owned by the developers, and all you're doing is you're paying to use that account, right? You have to keep that in mind. You don't actually own any of that. That's the reality of the mobile gaming market. When a game developer decides to either not go to a worldwide release or they decide to actually shut a game down, it's very difficult. And you can kind of see some of the reasonings, right? So the mobile strategy game is a very difficult market to break into, especially if you're not drastically different. And you have to think about it. Players aren't just choosing a game, they're choosing a community. So once you get into a game and you get into Alliance, it's hard to get out of it because those are your friends. Those are the people that you're competing with. You're usually in it for years. I mean, I was in War and Order for 5, 6, I don't know how many years, a long time. And players that spent, let's say 3 years building a relationship with people within the game, they're not just going to leave very easily. A player who already has an established account isn't going to start over unless there's a really compelling reason. So every new game entering the market isn't just competing against new releases, it's competing against games that have been building communities for 5, 10, even 15 years. And that's a tough challenge for anybody, even Civilization. Eventually the announcement came. Civilization Allies and Eras would no longer be moving forward. The game would shut down before ever reaching a full global release. The people who had spent within the game, they were not getting a refund unless they had money that coins that were sitting out there they hadn't used. But really, when you spend money, you use those coins almost immediately. And really, it's not even the money. Right? So most of the players that were playing this are probably not whales, as they aren't in most games. The game never really had a chance to reach like this, several years on where you would have over time spent a lot of money. It was still relatively new, under a year. But what was lost is the time spent, the people that had spent time in there, their communities that they had built, all of that happens and you build in. And I know it wasn't like a worldwide release, but it was still Asia, right? So there were a lot of people playing it. There were over 1 million people who had downloaded this game. I think it was 1.3 million people had downloaded the game. For them, it could have been, and I'm sure it is, a very difficult thing that's gone on. Like, they're probably wondering, like, where do they go now? I think they have until the end of June, and it's right now middle of June. They have until the end of June to kind of figure out their next step, and then the servers are going to be shut down. And that's really the reason that I wanted to make this video. It's not to criticize the developers. I mean, they have to make money, right? These companies aren't there, just to be nice, right? They're not just throwing money away, right? It's not to criticize the players who spend and to get in this. Obviously, I've been in there a long time playing games. This could have easily happened with some of the other games that I've played. I find stories like this to be fascinating. Here's a game with one of the biggest names in strategy gaming, years of development, a major publisher behind it, a recognizable brand, and even that wasn't enough to guarantee a success. If anything, Civilization Allies and Eras is a reminder of just how competitive the gaming industry has become. A great IP isn't enough. A polished game isn't enough. Sometimes even doing a lot of things right still isn't enough. Companies have to make those decisions. Where are they going to invest their income? Like, where are they going to get the most out of it? Are they going to be, for 2K Games, are they going to be a mobile development company? Or are they going to stick with consoles and PC, right? There are a lot of decisions that they have to make. Maybe they just didn't have the expertise or just the will to continue on this, to fight through a struggle of potentially losing money at first to hopefully grow out of that. Maybe they just cut their losses while they had a chance. At the end of the day, Civilization, Allies and Eras will probably be remembered as one of gaming's more interesting what-if stories. What if it had launched globally? What if it had received another year of development? What if it had found a larger audience? We'll never know, but for those of us who got a chance to play it, even briefly, it's not hard to wonder what might have been. And that's why I think it's worth remembering. Take care.